Out on the open ocean, thousands of boats glide into the darkness, their engines humming as the waves slap the hulls like a warning drum. Under the night sky, powerful lights ignite across the water, turning the sea into a glowing stage where squid rise from the depths and crews race the clock. Farther north, heavy traps sink toward icy floors, and when the winches roar to life, lobster and crab emerge, alive and writhing with ocean spray. Every haul is a balance of skill and restraint, measuring sizes, releasing undersized catch, and protecting the future with rules written into every season. From hand lines to massive nets, from chilled seawater tanks to deep freezers, this is how seafood stays fresh long before it reaches your plate. Follow the journey, subscribe for more real-world harvest stories, and see what it takes to feed millions, one risky night at sea at a time. The first stop of this ocean harvest begins with squid fishing, where crews work the night shift under a canopy of stars. On mid-sized boats, the captain slows to a steady drip, and the deck lights flicker as the team checks every cable and hook. When the main lamps switch on, the sea surface turns silver, and the globe pushes outward like floating silver. Fishermen lead over the rails, watching the water, listening for the slap of waves, and scanning for the first signs of movement below. Squid are drawn toward the brightness, rising from deeper water, because the light gathers tiny prey, and the food chain follows. Along both sides of the boat, automatic jigging machines clatter to life, each one lifting and dropping lines with practiced rhythm. The jigs flash and twitch like living bait, and the motion stays constant, even when the boat rocks in uneven swells. As soon as a squid takes the hook, the machine lifts it clean, swinging the catch onto the deck in one quick arc. A deckhand steps in immediately, grips the squid carefully, removes it fast, and sends the line back down without wasting a second. Another crew member rinses the catch with seawater, clearing sand and slime, so the product stays clean from the first moment. The team sorts by size, working shoulder to shoulder, calling out counts, and keeping the workflow tight and calm. As smaller boats in the shore, the scene changes, because fishermen often work with hand lines and a few bright lures. They drop the line into shallower water, feel for the subtle tongue, and lift with a smooth motion that comes from repetition. In the dim light you can hear the click of reels, the soft splash of a lure, and the steady breathing of people focused on timing. Every catch is handled quickly because squid quality depends on temperature, and warm air can steal freshness in minutes. Crushed ice waits in insulated bins, and chilled seawater tanks hum quietly, ready to hold the night's harvest. Some larger vessels add rapid freezing, locking in texture and flavor, so the squid can travel longer distances without losing value. While the machines keep working, the crew keeps moving, wiping down surfaces, resetting lines, and stacking bins in neat rows. The ocean never stays still, and a sudden wind shift can turn calm water into a rolling mess, forcing the captain to adjust position. When the boat pitches, fishermen widen their stance, keep one hand on the rail, and keep the routine going without panic. They rely on experience, reading cloud cover, current changes, and the way light scatters on the surface as the night deepens. Sometimes the squid arrive in thick waves, and the deck becomes a fast, controlled dance, lifting, rinsing, sorting, and icing. Other times the bite slows, and the crew waits, listening to the machines, watching the glow, and trusting the process. No matter the pace, the goal stays the same. Bring the catch aboard clean, preserve it immediately, and respect the results. Near dawn, the lights begin to dim, and the ocean returns to its natural darkness, as if nothing happened out there. The crew looks exhausted but satisfied, because every bin represents careful teamwork and a product that will feed families far away. With the final lines pulled, the captain turns toward port, and the boat cuts through calmer water with the load kept cold and secure. Squid fishing may look like magic from the shoreline, but up close, it is discipline, speed, and seawater on working hands. As the squid boat heads back in, the next chapter begins in colder water, where lobster fishing is built on patience and precision. In places like coastal Maine, fishermen launch before sunrise, and the harbor smells of salt, bait, and old rope drying on wooden rails. On deck, rectangular traps are stacked in tall rows, their heavy coated mesh designed to survive rock, time, and years of scraping the seafloor. Each trap is baited carefully, because scent is the invitation, and the wrong bait can mean an empty haul days later. The fisherman ties the line, checks the knots, and sets the buoy color that marks ownership, like a signature floating on the surface. When the captain reaches a known bottom, the trap is lifted, swung outward, and dropped, disappearing into the dark water with a hollow splash. One after another, traps go down in steady rhythm, while the engine idles and gulls circle, waiting for scraps. Then comes the quiet part, because lobster fishing is not a chase. It is a timed test of location, bait, and the animal's habits. After the soak period, the crew returns and the mood shifts as the first buoy is spotted bobbing in the chop. A gaff hook grabs the line, the rope snaps tight, and the hydraulic hauler begins to pull, whining under the strain. Water pours off the rope sheets. The trap finally breaks the surface, dripping like a steel cage pulled from another wood. On deck, the door swings open, and lobsters tumble out with hard shells and twitching antennae, mixed with seaweed and stray crabs. The crew moves fast, because time on deck is time out of water, and keeping lobsters healthy protects both quality and value. Each lobster is measured, and the legal size rule is treated like law on the boat, not suggestion. Undersized lobsters are returned gently, and egg-bearing females are released, because tomorrow's catch depends on today's restraint. The sound is a mix of clanking traps, rushing water, and short focused calls between crew members as they sort without stopping. Rubber bands slide onto claws, preventing damage in the tanks and keeping the animals from harming each other. The keeper lobsters are lowered into chilled seawater holding systems, where temperature and oxygen are managed like a living warehouse. The sea can still fight back, and storms can destroy gear, shift the bottom, and turn a simple haul into a day of dangerous work. In recent seasons, fishermen have also faced changing ocean conditions that can push lobsters into new areas and complicate planning. That uncertainty makes every trip feel like a gamble, even for crews who have worked these waters since childhood. Still, the system is built to protect the fishery, with seasons, trap limits, and requirements that reduce pressure on the population. Back at the dock, buyers wait, and tanks bubble as lobsters are transferred, counted, and moved into the next stage of the supply chain. From there, they travel in refrigerated transport, sometimes across the country, sometimes overseas, arriving alive for markets and restaurants. What looks like a luxury dish on a plate begins as heavy gear, cold spray, and steady hands making the same steps over and over. And when the last trap is stacked, the crew cleans the deck, resets bait for the next run, and prepares to face the sea again. Because in lobster fishing, success is not one big moment. It is hundreds of careful decisions made in rough weather, under pressure. The ocean rewards discipline, and the fishermen who last the longest are the ones who respect both the rules and the water. From lobster grounds, the story pushes farther into harsher seas, where snow crab and tuna fisheries demand heavy gear and constant vigilance. Before a crab trip even begins, crews load metal traps in towering stacks, check hydraulics, and test navigation systems that guide them through fog and snow. Out on the grounds, the ocean looks calm for a second. Then a gust hits, and the surface breaks into sharp, cold chop. One trap after another drops overboard, sinking to the bottom in long strings, each set marked by buoys that balance like small lifeboats. Bait scents leak slowly into the water, and down below, crabs crawl toward the source, drawn in by instinct or hunger. After the soak time, the hauling starts, and the winch groans as the first line comes tight. The rope rises covered in icy spray, and the trap bursts out of the sea, heavy with water, sand, and whatever it has captured. Sometimes only a handful of crabs spill out, and sometimes the deck floods with legs and shells, as if the ocean poured its own basket into the boat. The crew sorts immediately, keeping the biggest, healthiest crabs, and returning undersized catch and egg-bearing females back into the water. Hands move fast in thick gloves, because steel edges, swinging loads, and slippery decks leave no room for mistakes. When the air is cold enough, sea spray freezes on contact, building ice on railings, traps, and boots, adding weight that can turn deadly. Crew members chip ice away, breathe hard in the wind, and keep working, because stopping too long can cost both catch and safety. Market-ready crabs go into chilled seawater systems, or into quick freeze handling, so freshness is protected before the boat turns home. And while the crab gear is secured, Another kind of hunt happens far offshore, where tuna move like living torpedoes. Finding tuna can mean scanning the horizon for birds, watching sonar marks, and reading the water for subtle signs of a moving school. In some fisheries, fishermen line the rails with rods, baiting hooks quickly and dropping lines the moment the school flashes beneath the surface. The sound becomes frantic, with shouted timing cues, splashing water, and reels rattling as multiple fish strike at once. Each tuna is brought in with controlled force because power matters, but so does care, and bruising can ruin quality. Once landed, the fish are handled immediately, cleaned and iced down, so the color and texture stay bright and firm. On larger vessels, the cold chain goes deeper, with ultra-cold storage that keeps the catch stable for long voyages back to port. Another method relies on a massive net that circles a school, tightening slowly as support boats coordinate like a moving wall. When the net closes, the deck crew prepares space, because the next minutes decide whether the catch stays premium or loses value. Across both methods, the rule is the same. Speed is everything after capture, and temperature control is the difference between ordinary and top grade. And just when it feels like the ocean has shown every kind of harvest, the final chapter introduces a creature that escapes almost anything. Octopus fishing often uses simple dams, jars, pots, or tubes placed on the seafloor, where the animals slip inside to hide during the night. Days later, fishermen return, lift the containers, and find them occupied. A quiet method that protects the body and keeps the product intact. In other areas, nearshore nets catch octopus as they roam, and when hauled up, the catch is rinsed with seawater and cooled immediately. Ink, the suction, the twisting arms, everything about an octopus says intelligence and survival, which makes each capture feel like a small victory. Whether it is crab in freezing spray, tuna in open water pursuit, or octopus in hidden dens, the common thread is relentless routine under risk. The sea offers no guarantees, but these fishermen keep returning because the supply chain starts here, on a moving deck, in real weather. After a full night on the ocean, the story comes together in one simple truth. Every seafood meal begins with risk, skill, and discipline at sea. Squid rise toward blazing lights, lobster waits inside baited traps, snow crab fills heavy cages in icy water, and tuna turns the open ocean into a fast-moving hunt. Even the octopus, quiet and clever, is gathered through patient methods that rely on understanding its habits, not brute force. But none of this matters without the cold chain, rinsing, sorting, icing, chilled seawater tanks, and deep freezing that protect freshness from the deck to the dock. And none of it lasts without rules, measuring sizes, releasing undersized catch, protecting egg-bearing females, and fishing within seasons and limits. If you enjoyed this journey across the working ocean, follow the channel, subscribe for more large-scale harvest stories, and share which fishermen you want to see next.